Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar featuring Rigado and WeissBeerger talking about the real-time store and previewing the next-gen Trayz solution from WeissBeerger. We're really excited for this topic. It's going to have some really great market discussions, technology discussions. We're going to get into some ROI and real-time store environments, and we're really excited to have our guest from WeissBeerger joining us. So with that, I'd like to introduce our panel. From WeissBeerger, the IoT lead is Nikki Zinchenko. Nikki, welcome. Why don't we do a quick audio check and you can say hi to everyone.
Hi guys, nice to be here.
Great, so that's Nikki. And here with me in the room from Rigado is Kevin Tate, our Chief Revenue Officer. Kevin, welcome.
Hey everybody.
And I'm Steve Greta, I run product marketing here, and I'm going to moderate, and I'll be taking questions in the panel. So go ahead, and if you have a question as we're going along here, drop something in the Zoom panel, and I'll either answer it during the webinar, or we'll hold it towards the end and when we do a live Q&A. So with that, let's get started. And Kevin, why don't you start us off with a little overview about Rigado?
Sure, thanks a lot, Steve. Super excited to have Nikki here. Thanks so much for joining us. And I wanted to provide a little bit of context for those who might be new to Rigado on how we fit into this picture. And so I'll take a couple of minutes to do that and then hand it over to Nikki to talk about the Trayz solution. Our role here at Rigado is to deliver real-time data. A lot of times we're bridging the gap between the cloud applications or enterprise applications that a company wants to run, especially in a store environment, and the data they need to do that. So we see our job as centrally the connectivity, the edge computing, and the secure integration with the cloud coming out of these real-time store and real-time retail environments, which obviously has a lot to do with what we're talking about today. We're lucky to work with a whole host of companies across different verticals. Retail and restaurants, which obviously is today's focus, is a big area for us. We've got a number of partners in retail and restaurants who are using Rigado gateways and sensors to drive data and automation. We couldn't do what we do without a lot of technology partners. So folks like Azure and AWS, as well as more specialized sensor and device partners are really key to our ecosystem. Our secret sauce, if you will, is something we call Edge Connect. I won't go too deep into it here, but if you're interested in how we do what we do with our gateways, managing the connectivity, the computing, and the secure cloud integration in these retail environments, please don't hesitate to ask, or we can follow up on that later. Switching toward retail and today's topic in particular, obviously a lot of technology and business trends that are reshaping retail today. There's the omni-channel customer experience. There's the rise of things like delivery systems and buy online, pickup in store. And things like workforce enablement and automation become even more important as speed and efficiency are paramount for customers. And through our lens in the data delivery world, we see all of those as increasing the need for real-time data. And that's both so that the companies can understand what's happening in a store or a restaurant, but also so they can act on that information to automate or optimize it. So in terms of the real-time data required, we think about things in the environmental space, in the location present space, and in the activity space. And today we're going to talk about some activity data and usage data that WeissBeerger is using for optimization. Ultimately, our role in all this is to help our partners who might be providing solutions around customer engagement or automation or monitoring to get the data that they need to drive those business outcomes for their customers. So today our gateways are a part of the WeissBeerger solution we'll be taking a look at, but just want to provide some context for kind of how the pieces you're going to hear about today fit together. All right, that's enough for me. Let me hand it over to Nikki. Nikki, you want to take the presenter?
Yeah, sure.
We'll let you know when we see it here. All right, looks like it's coming over.
Sorry, that's the last slide.
Spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Perfect. That looks great.
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you guys from Rigado for having us. And welcome to this presentation of Trayz, particularly the IoT solution that we implement in Trayz. So a quick introduction about WeissBeerger. We were bought in January 2018 by AB InBev, Anheuser-Busch InBev, which is the largest beer company in the world. Control about 30% of the global market with annual revenue of about $58 billion. Over 500 brands, noticeably enough is Budweiser, Corona, Stella Artois, Leffe, Hoegaarden, and many, many more. We have global presence in over 100 countries in the world, and we were founded in 2011 in Tel Aviv, Israel. We created the first connected bar, which originally was just a solution of a tap on your table in your bar, and you could just pay by the amount you poured. And we built our own IoT product that is deployed today already in thousands of bars, mostly in Canada, UK, Australia, South Korea, and a few other countries as well. And as I said, we were acquired by AB InBev in January 2018, mostly because we moved towards integrations with point of sales and the ability to drive insights and knowledge using big data. So what are the typical business challenges that we see for bar and restaurant owners? First of all is gauging the market. People mostly operate their businesses by hunches, but we can answer questions about the markets. Is it going up? Is it going down? How was my performance yesterday? It was good, it was bad. How am I versus neighboring bars or bars that are like me in terms of geography, or maybe size or amount of customers daily. We can help them make strategic decisions about what's trending. Is lager beer up? Do chicken wings sell good? How am I pricing my menu? Do I overprice my beers and that's why people don't buy them? Or am I underpricing them and I can increase my revenue? What to keep in stock? I can tell a bar, you're selling this amount of beer weekly and you should keep this stock, just instead of you thinking about maybe I should order more or holding an oversized stock in my warehouse. And most of all, what do I do with this data? A lot of restaurants and bars are currently integrated with point of sale, and they can get data about how much they sell, but they don't know what to do with this data. They don't know how to compare it. They don't know how to analyze it, and they don't know how to drive insights for themselves. So we've introduced the connected bar. We connect through IoT to their beer taps and also to their point of sale. And we just analyze everything from waste to revenue to quality and average temperature of the beer. We can manage their portfolio and let them know which beers they should hold in stock, which beers are very popular now, what's trending, and stuff like that. So how can IoT answer these questions about beer? I've mentioned beer quality. Every beer has appropriate temperatures set by the brewery. We can monitor that and tell the bar owner, your beer is served too hot. That's why customers are not buying it. We can give them data about keg freshness. Is it recently been switched? Is it well taken care of? We can give data about last sanitation. Is your lines clean? Is the process of sanitation was good or not? We can predict the beer volume needed on a given day of the week. What are the best times to do a happy hour? People don't know that, but the amount of time that you spend in a happy hour can drastically influence your revenue in that evening. What items you could put in that happy hour, how much staff is needed for your shift. You can plan shifts on a daily basis. You can plan ahead towards holidays or special events, such as a football game. And you can see that in the Trayz app that I will show in a few slides. Most of all, waste is the major factor in IoT because we connect to the beer taps, and we can identify not only general waste in terms of how much you poured versus how much you sold, but we can identify the different types of waste. The big power of this is that we not only tell the bar how much waste it has, we give them tools and directions of how to reduce that waste, how to save that money. And I will quantify that in a few slides, just to show that the ROI of IoT in restaurants is extremely good. It's just too easy to sell that. We can identify after hours pours by staff, which bartender likes to drink a pint after work, which chef comes in early and drinks a pint before work. And we can do optimizations. We can recognize which brands are out of stock, and we can connect that to the brewery and say, okay, I have 2 last kegs, please give me some more kegs because my stock is running low. And now I'll switch to our Trayz app. This is the Trayz app overview deck. So you come in and you see the net sales of your bar. You can see the performance versus last week here. And the most powerful tool is that we can compare you to businesses like yours based on geography or the net sales or the amount of customers that you have. You can see how your bar is performing in various metrics. And you can see a breakdown of what you're selling in terms of food, wine, beer, spirits, and so on. You can dive into each category and see which items generate the most revenue. You can design special combos. For example, just chicken wings and Budweiser are going hot. People who buy wine are usually people who order steak dinners. And you can see market trends. Here you can see all of the beers. What we see here is how much the beer is a part of your shares. And you can see the comparison towards business like yours right here in yellow. And when you press on the beer, you can see the pricing. You can see that bars like yours sell a pint of Red Truck Lager in $7. You price it at $6.65, sorry. And you can see that it generates also insights. You can see that a bottle of Coors Light is one of your best sellers and currently underpriced by 80 cents. If you increase that price, you can generate more revenue. The last thing I want to show you is staff performance. You can see which staff member sells the most, who generates the most tips. That could be a very good indication towards efficiency and the wellness of the service that he provides to your customers. You can see who generates the most sales, who is more attentive to customers and sales per customers are higher, who works more. You can plan shifts using this tool as well. Back to the slides, and let's talk about technical stuff. Our current version with Rigado is version 6. So we've endured through 5 versions and generated a lot of lessons. With the previous IoT solutions, we didn't use industry standards. We used ad hoc solutions that are, well, their advantage was that they were tailor-made exactly to our specifications and they met our solution perfectly. But then when things started to change, we saw that changing this product is very hard and it requires just a brand new product each time we wanted to change something. So we needed something more robust, more future-proof, and something that is more fluent. Also, a big part that we inserted here is monitoring, which Rigado gives us a lot of tools to monitor not only our gateways, but also all of our sensors that are spread in the bar. In terms of connectivity, our previous versions were wired sensors. They were wired to a gateway with a limited number of ports, and installation was quite a hassle since you have to have a physical connection between the gateway and the wired sensors, meaning that if you have two areas in a bar, you would need more and more gateways. The typical flow meter that we put on a tap had a cable of 15 meters, which is roughly 50 feet, to those of you who don't use the metric system. 50 feet, the average bar in, let's say, Canada has about 16 taps. You can just start to understand how much wiring is involved with that process. Our new solution uses wireless flow meters, and it's just limitless. I mean, you can just throw in a Rigado gateway inside a bar and just load it with sensors. We'll talk about limitations of the density of sensors later on. The build from scratch approach, again, it met our specifications perfectly, but the way to get there was extremely hard and cumbersome. Currently, we just use out-of-the-box framework from AWS IoT. We just adapt to a current product that we have on the shelf. The custom design components, we've talked about that quite a few times, and versus the off-the-shelf gateway that we use by Rigado. And the operation, the provisioning and scaling out with manual process was very hard for us. Today, we are able to monitor and track push updates over the air easily, understand the situation and the status of all of the sensors, the gateway, and the installation is done with a DIY app by the bar owner. No need to send technicians. If you guys know anything about the Canadian market, sending 2 technicians on a 3-hour drive each direction to a bar in a remote town in Canada is a very costly thing. Having the bar owner install the IoT kit by himself is something that is huge in terms of operational costs. So let's talk about the components of the kit. We have the Rigado gateway, which is the Cascade 500W. It's running AWS Greengrass, hosting the WirePass Snap that we'll talk about in a few seconds. We use Wi-Fi as a primary connectivity, with LTE being the secondary and the backup connectivity. And that's also switching between those is automatic by the Rigado gateway. We manage the packages via snaps, and using the AWS IoT core, it's just easy integration to other AWS services, data lakes, and our entire pipeline sits on AWS. The security is built in. Certificates is just a very good way to keep that secure. Security in IoT is a very big topic these days, and I can tell you most of them, even our previous versions, were not nearly as secure as our current solution. We are able to push code to the edge, deploy even firmware updates on all of the sensors using the system. We're using WirePass mesh protocol as our connectivity. The advantages of that is when you're dealing with a noisy environment, such as a bar, which has dozens, if not hundreds of Bluetooth instruments, we're able to keep our mesh pretty secure. And if we take it to edge cases, like let's say installing Tap IoT in a football stadium with tens of thousands of people, you're able to still keep your network alive. The sensor density is, as reported by WirePass, is 1,000 sensors in a cubic meter. The battery life should be around 2 to 3 years. From what we've tested, the batteries on our flow meter and our temperature sensors are currently predicted to last about 16 years. So battery is not it's not an issue. The wireless flow meter is developed by Digmesa, which is a Swiss company. It's the first wireless flow meter in history. It's developed by Digmesa, and it's certified for use in food and beverage industries. And our wireless temperature sensor is an off-the-shelf Ruby tag, which is a Finnish company. It serves both as a temperature sensor and a relay sensor that we can bounce messages using the Wirepash network, which is also self-healing. So if flow meter can't find the gateway, it could bounce this payload through another sensor on the way. And the most important thing in terms of cost is the DIY installation application installed by the bar owner, reduce operational costs. I can share the information. Installation used to take about 2 technicians for about 8 hours, which cost us around $1,000 per system. With switching to DIY, that number turned into 0. So that's a huge difference in terms of ROI. So the current stage that we're at with this IoT solution is that we are piloting in a smart bar in Tel Aviv, which is a partner of ours that we get to test. We treat it as a playground. We test all sorts of new technologies there. We've been doing that since mid-November, so it's a good 3 months in terms of data. We get a lot of feedback from the field before the mass rollout of this new solution. Iron out all the details, make sure everything is smooth and working. And we're now preparing and hardening our mass rollout solution, which is a lot easier doing it with Rigado and AWS. Since these are 2 very big players in this, they have a lot of experience. Rigado has been extremely responsive and tailored to every silly or important need that we ever had. And we're solidifying our new and improved operations plan from manufacturing to deployment in the bar. It's a whole new game for us. Instead of managing technicians, we're just making sure that all of our users are just following our instructions, which is a lot easier in terms of support and operations. And we're also testing out the OTA capabilities of the systems, just learning when and how to do the OTA. Instead of just doing that in a press of a button, we just plan that according to the usage of the users. So our partner bar, I didn't mention the name, but it's the Bicicleta bar here in Tel Aviv. The initial monthly waste accumulates to about 18 kegs. Just to put that in numbers, it's about 23% of the beer poured. So every 5th pint is just poured to the trash. So most of the waste comes from 2 brands that are allowed by the bar owner for the staff to drink from, what we call employee drinking. Unreported beers are accumulated to about 10 kegs a month. That means that 10 kegs a month are beers that are, being poured, but nobody registers them in the POS. Of those 10 kegs, 8 kegs were off-time pouring. That means staff drinking before or after hours. 10 kegs a month can be sold for customers for $3,700. So that's a very easy number to sell. After 1 month of monitoring, we were just using weekly waste reports. The waste page in Trayz is not ready yet. It should be up and running in June. But we're generating the manual weekly waste reports by monitoring both the IoT and the POS and just comparing them. We've identified the main sources of waste. We cleared overpour in 2 brands. I could say that the bar owner had his suspicions about two brands that they were selling in half a pint, and they thought they were overpouring that, which they did. We just altered the flow rate and cleared that overpour. And we changed the staff drinking policy, both to maintain the registry in the POS, and they limit them to 2 drinks per shift. The current waste is down to 10 kegs a month, which is a 45% decrease in a month, or just under $3,000 in potential revenue a month. So I want to summarize that the versatility of off-the-shelf products versus customized hardware, I've mentioned that already, but getting off-the-shelf products and adapting them to your current needs means that you will probably have to give up on 100% of your spec, but what you gain is something that you can adapt to your system. So instead of trying to taking the hardware and changing that towards what you need, you get to adapt to a current product that is off the shelf, which would always say that you will probably work the way you're supposed to work and not the way you thought you were supposed to work, which is was quite mind-blowing for us. So tailor-made solutions versus adapting to current technology, I've talked about that. But the big part here, which was probably enabled mostly by Rigado, was the fast and easy deployment. The system that Rigado provided was just something that is amazingly plug and play in our bars. And no need for technicians, no need for somebody that knows what he's doing. We're just building our DIY app, and it became from our old tech app, which is about 84 pages in an application. In our DIY app now, we're talking about 9 screens. Another big point here is monitoring and alerts. We used to have alerts only on the gateway, and they were very limited. With this new system, we can now know what's the status of every sensor, even to the level of knowing what's the current battery voltage in each sensor that's deployed in the bar, which sensor is delivering which messages. We can identify sensors that are busy and routing all of the messages, flagging the critical sensors that we need to keep a closer eye on. And in an overall view, monitoring is a lot easier with this system. And I've talked about finding the right partner. Just a big shout out to Rigado. They've been so responsive, and they really brought a lot of experience to the table and helped us shape this system to what it's now. So thank you about that. That's it for me. So Kevin, back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Nikki. Thanks for the kind shout out. I want to remind our attendees that it's not too late. If you want to ask a question, just drop something in the Q&A panel. And I actually will get things started with a couple of questions for Nikki and Kevin. I guess, Nikki, while we're on the topic of WeissBeerger's deployment and application, I'm curious, now that you've got one use case really under your belt with IoT, with flow monitoring and waste reduction, is that leading you to look at other things that a bar might have that could lend itself to using the infrastructure they've already deployed? Or are you expanding to other spaces in retail? What's your approach now that you've seen the success that the technology can bring?
That's a great question. Having a pilot bar, which just serves as a playground for us, just led us to a lot of Q&A and a lot of feedback from our customers. A lot of them are interested in sensors in maybe refrigerators, sensors that are connected to the video cameras, to recognize theft. And if we're talking about expanding, then the ABI platform is a great platform to do that, because ABI also owns a lot more than just beer taps and just beer. For example, ABI holds 7,000 supermarkets in a chain called Modelorama in Mexico. So moving IoT and Trayz into new products in these supermarkets in terms of, let's say, electronic shelf labeling, beacons in supermarkets to understand how people buy and where they go inside the supermarket, is also something that could generate a lot of revenue in that supermarket.
Very interesting. And I think related to the Trayz platform, we had a question in the panel about point of service applications. Are there APIs deployed that tie in point of service to Trayz?
Not sure I understood that.
The question was around point of sale applications, POS.
Yeah.
Are there APIs deployed, or do you have an integration with point of sale, or is that coming soon?
We have integration with a lot of point of sales. In Israel, we have 2 of them, and we generally aim towards having the top 3 or 4 point of sales in each country we go to.
Mm-hmm.
So we integrate with that point of sale, and the initial process of integrating with a point of sale in every bar or restaurant is just matching their items to something that we can analyze.
Mm-hmm. Great. And wanted to throw a question in Kevin's direction, although there's another one that says, how many systems are currently deployed? I'm guessing that's referring to, how many customers you have deployed. I'm not totally clear on that, but maybe you could just talk in general, Nikki, about the deployment scale. How many bars has it deployed? Is it still in just a few of the initial betas? What's the deployment looking like?
So the current deployment of IoT Trayz is only in our, our latest version with Rigado is only deployed in our pilot bar currently, but our goal is to have about 100 point of consumption connected with IoT in Israel. And our next target is going to be Canada. We plan on Q4 and Q1 of next year to have about 50 customers of Trayz that are already using Trayz as a POS solution to have IoT as well. But the previous versions of IoT, we have, if I remember correctly, don't catch me on the number, we have 961 deployed bars across the planet.
Great. And what do you typically see as the number of sensors on the network? There was a question around the maximum number of sensors. I know that this depends on a lot of factors, but what's a typical range that you would say is, pretty reliable to self-install and manage?
Well, we've analyzed our current customers from Canada, UK, Australia, and South Korea. And we've seen that we could cover 75% of the bars using, they have 16 taps. So 16 taps would mean 16 flow meters and roughly about 8 to 10 temperature sensors, because some taps are connected together after the fridge. So generally speaking, about 25 to 30 sensors a bar. We used to have between 4 to 5 gateways to cover that, but today we could do that with just one Rigado gateway.
Mm-hmm. Great. And Kevin, I wanted to turn to you and ask, we've talked about Nikki's application and deployment in bars and restaurants. How does that relate to some of the macro trends you mentioned early on in retail, some of the trends there, but how does that relate to some of the things that you're hearing in other types of retail environments, and how IoT can bring value to those spaces like it has for WeissBeerger?
Yeah, sure. Although I'll warn you, none are as fun as when beer's involved. So that said, Yeah, I think we're seeing retailers across categories, whether it's restaurant and bar, convenience store, or apparel retail, trying to fill data gaps around what's going on in the store. It could be data gaps that are related to loss prevention, to staffing, to utilization operations, but effectively blind spots in how the business is operating and how it might run better. So that's one big category. And I'd say the other big category is around speed and efficiency. So whereas, even a few years ago, it felt like people were trying to figure out how can we use IoT technology to merchandise differently or sell more, people who are walking by beacons in the stores, that sort of thing. And that's certainly valid, but I think much more interesting is how do we create a responsive retail environment so that when people want to buy online and pick up in store, or buy online, pick up curbside, or buy online, pick up the drive-through window, you can accommodate all those things and you're responding to what the customer is asking you to do in real time. And that requires a lot of data about how the business is running.
Mm-hmm. And one last thing I wanted to throw out there, and I think both of you could chime in. It seems like the real game changer for you, Nikki, at WeissBeerger was being able to present a self-install model. Taking the cost to install from $1,000 basically down to zero. What can we take away from that, and how is that going to apply to people that are on this webinar, and how they might get started with something and really make IoT not a huge scary project for every customer that they want to deploy it to? How do you both see that evolving over time? Nikki, I'll let you go first on that one.
Well, the problem I see with IoT is that we as technology people generally see our ideas and we build them and we grow them and we live them and we fully understand them. But when we want to deploy to the customer, eventually we're talking about people that might not be as tech savvy as we would like them to be, and definitely not as tech savvy as the people who plan the IoT solution. So you want to have the ability to take very intricate and very complicated IoT solutions that are not as complicated to the user. So the user could have a very easy and very happy installation process and not be intimidated by it. Because eventually, when you want to spread out a lot of sensors and you want to generate a lot of ideas, you're also making the process to have a lot of components, and you will need to install all of these sensors in the system. So we want to have a very, let's say, plug and play experience, which is very easily enabled if you plan your products right. Using a Rigado gateway and sensors that automatically connect to the gateway and start sending out data as soon as they are turned on is a very big solution and a very big step towards having a very simple system to the user.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally agree. And one of the things that we're looking to as an example is what's happening with things like home security systems. So I recently switched from a old school home security provider to a kit that I bought online, set up myself in less than an hour, and it just works. And everything showed up ready to run, plug in, walk through the installation process on the app, and good to go. And I think that is the standard that people are going to expect from the systems that they're putting into their businesses, not just their houses.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, I think we'll give you the last word on that. And I want to thank all of our attendees for joining and asking some nice questions. Nikki and Kevin, thanks for your insights. This is a great look into a real use case, a real world example of IoT, and look forward to continuing our relationship together as WeissBeerger expands its offering through our partnership. So thank you again, everyone.
Thanks all. Thanks, Nikki.
Thank you very much, guys.